So, good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you're joining in. We are happy to have you for this webinar. And the webinar is for the 4.2 release that we just shipped a few days back for the SwiftEnterprise product. Now, I'm Bhavesh from the SwiftEnterprise product management team, and what we'll be going through is all those usability enhancements that have been shipped as part of the 4.2 release. So to quickly go over the agenda for this session. So the agenda for today's session is we look at all the enhancements that have happened in this various modules of the application. So for the Agile team, which we have been following rigorously for the last few releases, this time we are primarily focusing on the execution board. So we have enhanced it. We have introduced a new visual card designer and a couple of ways where you can also keep track of the boards and flagging of the card. Apart from that, we have made some enhancements on the board editor as well. Moving on to the next one, we have made several enhancements in the area of start task planning. So if you are one of the project managers or have a team where you have been managing task plans using our start module, this will definitely come in handy because now you have a new intermediate save being introduced. So you will be able to work on your plan longer without having to check in every time you want the changes to be saved. And along with that, there are several other improvements in the area of batch assignment, resource assignments on start task plans. In the area of dashboard, what we have done is we have given new options to edit the item filter from the settings page itself, and also copy and move the widgets around on the dashboard pages. And while we did that, we also thought it would be good to reorganize all the contextual actions which are there on the widget. So those are the enhancements for the dashboard. On the mobile app, we now finally have the option to update your work items across various projects all together at the same time through the new timesheet module. And you will also be able to route the timesheet for approval right there from the mobile. So you'll be looking at that. And there are several other enhancements in other areas of the application, be it the e-form framework or the software that we support. So we'll be looking at those towards the end. So without further ado, let's get started. We'll look at all the enhancements that have happened as part of the execution board module. Let's switch to the application now. Okay. So we looked at the new execution board that we had shipped as part of the 4.0 release, and you see that the overall board visualization has completely been overwhelmed so that you're all able to look at the details very easily. And those details were available at the highest zoom level as well. So when you go to the highest zoom level, you see extra set of attributes that are on the card, and you don't have to navigate inside the card details view to be able to see these attributes. Now, in this release, what we have done is we have introduced a card designer, a visual card designer that helps you do this visually. So without having to go into the e-form configurations or without having to get into the XLS e-form configuration, you can do that visually right here from the execution board. So if you go to the card designer option here, you can click on the design action for the respective work item, and you will be presented with the set of attributes which already have an icon set against them on the left hand side, and on the right hand side you see the card, the layout in such a manner that you know which attribute is going to be visible where, and you can now start placing the required attributes on the user story. So in this case, for the user story e-forms, what we have done is we have decided to see the sprint, release, estimated points, the rank for that user story, and the remaining effort right here on the card. So I'm pretty much satisfied with what I see here on the user story. So let me go to say the enhance. Now when I go to the here, see the same set of calculation being done. So maybe it would help if I get to know upfront to which customer the enhancement belongs, or whether it's a billable enhancement or not. So instead of putting a rank, what I would do is I'll remove all these fields, and now the indicators show the second completely empty, and I start the fields available on the right. I do that while I upload the fields. I also get to know how much space it's going to occupy when I add them onto the row. So you know how much is available on the, how much you can fill it up using these fields. So depending upon the type of field it is, be it a number or a text field, the variation will be there between how much size it would occupy. So typically a number field like rank will occupy 25% of the space, and a text-based field will occupy 50% of the space. So I can still add the rank here right on top, and I know all the details are now set to be seen on the enhancement. So the visualization on the bottom also represents what I'm seeing here. So at that time, I know how it's going to look like before I take the call to save these changes and then see them reflected on my execution board. So similarly, if I go to my enhancements, I would say, or rather boxes, I would say I want to see the customer here. So here, bug fixes are something which I know I don't have to rank them, so I'll remove the rank. I know I'm going to ship them as part of the release, so probably need the estimates as well. So I can move the module here, I can move the customer here right on top and save these changes. And when I go back, the bug fixes card will now show up with the new attributes here. So now I see the name of the customer, name of the module as well when I get the card. Now this is really easy. I don't have to click on the details, scroll to the required field and see those values on the work item. So all these details are available upfront without, and there is a new way you can do it, and you saw it is a really simple way to configure via the execution board editor. So these were the improvements on the attributes, but apart from that, what we have also done is we have given a couple of new flag icons that will help you distinguish what needs to be done on the card. So so far we have had the option to block the card when you have an impediment on it, but not always you would want to block a card. Sometimes there would be cases where you just want to highlight a concern so that it gets taken up on your next stand-up, or you want to discuss it out. So that's why we have introduced the new flag option. And if there are cases where you want to gather votes on the card, typically at the end of the sprint, you would, during your retrospectives or during the end of the sprint, when you are having those demos, you would want to take votes of your teammates of how happy they are on the card and output of the card. So you can now also gather votes for such reasons on the card. So in this case, for the user story, I have enabled the vote icon, and whenever I hover over it, me who all have voted for that card. So it shows the thumbs up icon if I voted on it in green, and it also shows the other team members who have voted on this card. So this information is again available up front as soon as you hover over it. And the second option which we saw for the flag. Now flags, like I said, are something where you just want to highlight something on the card but don't really want to block it. So if you want to flag a card, you simply click on this flag icon and it will give you a pop-up to enter the reason, and whatever reason you enter, that will be shown as the flagging comment. So in this case, I'm saying that I need some changes as per the new version that I need to test on. So things like that you can add on the card as a flag, and you would know that this is something I need to take care of, or just keep in mind as the card progresses further. So you can decide to unflag it as well the moment you have taken care of this comment here. So these are the ways you can also highlight things on the card without having to actually block it or go inside the work item to update certain fields. Along with that, what we have also done is we have enhanced how the trace items are shown on the card. So if you hover over the work items which have been traced to this card, we are now showing you the counts based on the type of work items which are there on the enhancement in this case. So I know there are a couple of bug fixes which have been linked to this. A risk has been identified, and there's already action item in order to take care of that risk. So just hovering over the traced items I get a high level visibility of how many of such items are linked to this card. And finally, when we go on to the to-dos, what we have done here is if you go inside a card and what we had done earlier, you could lock for your to-do via this time tracking option on the to-do section. So whenever you open it up, now you have the option to jump to a specific week without having to navigate across using the arrow icon. So you can jump to a specific week, enter time for it using the calendar icon right at the center. So just to quickly go over what we saw how the visual card designer has been given as part of the series, wherein you can design what attributes you want to see for each kind of card that you are configured to see on the execution board. You can now flag the card with this flag icon and also gather votes on the card. We also looked at how the trace items are shown up front based on the type of work items they are, and we have also made one improvement wherein you can now copy the lane structure along the swim lane. So if you have a structure defined for your lane here, as you're seeing on the user story development, if you want to just replicate that, you can now use the copy lane option to do that. And finally, we looked at the time entry option across weeks via the to-do section on the board. So moving further, we now look at the enhancements that have been done as part of the start task planning. So let me navigate to one of the start plans. So before I get into the start task plans related changes, the first one I wanted to showcase here is, if you have noticed, the maximize now has, so earlier if you could, if you had to maximize, it would do a complete max and you would lose control over switching tabs of the browser. Every time it would come up, exit. So we wanted to take a scenario and you understood that at the same time you want as much of the screen space getting utilized to get your work done. So in these, what we have done is we have ensured that the screen gets utilized to the address bar, and you have any pop-ups coming up for application screen you're trying to, it will remain in the full screen mode. So this is the new way we are across the application. Wherever there is a full screen option, you will always see it going up to the address bar. You can switch tabs and continue working. So that's the first change which we have done. But apart from that, coming back to the start task plans, you now the checkout option on the start. Up until now, we had given an option of edit a task plan. So just to keep things on how it happens for Microsoft project as well as for start task plans, we have renamed this button. So checkout works just like your edit button, your start task plan, so that no one else can make changes to the task plan while you're working on it. Now, what you will see as a new button here is the check-in, and the reason for that is you now have the option to save the start task plan as well. So every time you wanted to change the task plan, but want on changes before putting it in, you couldn't do that. You had to check in changes that you have done so far. So with this, you can continue to build on your task plan as much as the time you need, and then decide to check in at a later stage. So just for example's sake, if I rename the task to PM, save the changes, and let me re-navigate to the major enhancement I had working on. Okay, so what you're seeing here is if I go to the full screen mode, I am presented with the task plan just like I had left it, and the task is renamed the way I had left it, and I can continue to make changes, save the task plan, and decide to check in. So this is as good as you're working on your own task plan without having to worry when I should be checking it in soon. So that's the first change which we have. Along with that, we have also renamed the button for undo to revert in this case. So revert will just work like the undo option earlier, but there was some confusion from our end users wherein they were interpreting the undo button as the last undo. So we just wanted to ensure that that ambiguity goes away and we rename the button to revert. So anytime I want to discard the changes, we are making it explicit. So when you click on that option, you will see that it says that the task plan will be checked. Whatever changes you have made from the time you have checked it out will be lost, and it will also give you the timestamp when you had checked it out. So you get a good reference of when the task plan was checked out, what are the changes you might have done after that, and then decide to discard it. So all these changes have been done in order to ensure that the project manager is able to work on the task plan, and whatever changes he is even wanting to revert, those are very explicit in nature and he knows what's going to happen. So moving forward with the usability enhancements now. So one of the ways you could assign tasks, assign resources onto the task was the batch assign option. So now if you select a couple of tasks and let's say I click on batch assign, what I'm done is I'm presented with all the resources that have been which are part of the team member here. So let me select a couple of tasks where I have assigned resources. In this case, I have assigned a resource already. So whatever other resources which have been assigned on the task, those are shown as selected upfront. I don't have to figure out at a later stage whether they were assigned or not assigned. So that ambiguity goes away. We are also not showing you the percentage units upfront because a certain resource could have a different percentage unit on one task and another one on another task. So if you want to make changes to the percentage units and apply it to all the tasks which you have selected, you could do that. You can change it here and then it would get applied to the tasks which are there. But otherwise, if you leave the percentage units just the way they are wanting to keep it just the same, you wouldn't have to fiddle around with the units. And assigning or unassigning a resource all happens through this checkbox. So you have a checkbox to indicate whether you want to assign a resource or want to remove a resource. You could do that by just selecting the checkbox against that resource or clicking on the name of the resource and hit apply. So it will automatically assign those resources to the task here. Now, along with the batch assignment, what we have also done is we have ensured that you can also copy paste task assignments very easily. So in this case, let me say if I go to my task assignment window here, let's say I assign this resource for 25%, the other one for 50, another one for 75, and I hit apply. Now assigning the same set of resources with the same percentage units is now simple. You just have to do a Control-C, and when you do a Control-V on another new task, they would reflect in the same manner. So you do a Control-C and then do a Control-V, and the same assignments will show up for the resources assigned on that task. Now that was for assigning resources if you are just wanting to assign the same set of resources for a couple of tasks. Otherwise you would still rely on the batch assign option there. But copying tasks has also been made simpler. So if I just want to copy a task, let's say I just right click on this and say copy task. And if I want to copy this task multiple times, I could do that. I can select the target task below which the new task should be there and say paste, and it will put the design review task right below it. Now I can do this multiple times. Earlier the option was there to paste the task only once. So every time I do a paste, it will still copy the task I had selected earlier and paste it again. And not just that, we could now copy multiple tasks as well. So all that ability to just do it for a single task has gone away, and you can now do it for multiple tasks. So depending upon where is your target task, and I say paste, all those three tasks will get copied. And another important change which we have done here is whenever you're pasting a task, it will get added as a sibling to the existing task. So earlier it used to make the target task as the parent task, and all the paste tasks would get indented that is no longer the case. The hierarchy will be maintained as per your target task. So all these changes will surely make working on the start task plan easier. So just to quickly go over all the changes which we have done on the start task plan. We saw the new intermediate save for the start task plans, how the bulk assignment has been improved upon, and how copying tasks or copying resources has been made simpler with the use of Control-C and Control-V key operation, as well as multiple copy paste and multiple copy paste of tasks. So now we'll look at the enhancements that have been done as part of the dashboard. So on the dashboard front, one of the areas which we wanted to ensure that gets simplified are the contextual actions. So earlier, your contextual actions were visible on hover, and they would crowd the title of the dashboard widget depending upon the size of the widget it had. So in this case, what we have done is we have ensured that the primary actions which the user would typically use frequently, those options are available up front, and the remainder ones are available inside the more options. So you will see that your settings or the invert axis or toggle, export, delete, all these options which rarely get used, they are all available under the more options, while the option to switch between the table view or the chart view is available up front along with the refresh option. Now, if you drill down further, also the options to navigate back to the first page or the drill down level will be available here itself. So all the important options are going to be available up front, and as you can see, now we have given a couple of new options to also help you configure widgets faster. So now there is a copy widget option. So typically, if you are working on a widget where you just want to make a few changes in the settings and reconfigure it for a different team or a different e-form, you could do that using the copy widget. So copy widget will copy the widget and add it right on the same page. Now, if you are not wanting to do that, but just wanting to move a widget to another page, you could do that as well. So when you hover over the move to option, it will present you with all the pages where you can move the widget, and selection of the page will move the widget right to the end of the page. So in this case, I move this one to the deviation analytics page, and I know without having to bother about where the widget has gone, I'll scroll right to the end to see that it has been added on the board. So defect inflow 2 is the one I just created, and it's now on the deviation analytics page. So you can now quickly copy or move a widget from a page. So along with that, especially for the item status widgets, what we have done is when you are wanting to configure item status widget, but you are not having the option to create or edit an item filter from this widget. So for those scenarios, you had to navigate to the respective e-form listing, create that filter, and come back and then use it here. So in order to get rid of that usability problem, what we have done is the ability to add a global filter is given right here. So you can create your own filter. Just for the example's sake, I'll add a filter criteria for, let's say, I just want to see all the defects based on the critical priority. I save it. So that option will be available for selection here. Similarly, if I just want to edit it quickly, I can do it right from here. So you can now add or edit your global filters for the items directly from the item status widget. So that has been another update on the dashboard. So just to quickly recap, we looked at how easy it is now to reconfigure widgets. You just use the copy or the move widget option to move widgets across the pages. You can now add and edit filters as well from the item status settings page. and the widget actions for the widget app basically have been reorganized so that all the primary actions are available upfront and the rest under the overflow menu. So while add and edit item filters is specifically done for the item status kind of widgets, the copy and move options have been given for all kinds of widgets. So depending upon, no matter what kind of widget you have configured on your dashboard, you can still copy it and move it to another page as well. So moving forward, we'll now look at the updates on the mobile app. So let me just quickly connect to the mobile. So now I have logged into the mobile app. I'm sorry for the technical issue there. So first up, once you're inside the mobile app, what you'll see is a couple of new options. The first one being the timesheet. So inside the timesheet module, what you will see here is I'm presented with the current week's timesheet. So I see the total number of hours I've already logged across various work items that may be belonging to multiple projects right here. And if I still want to go ahead and make changes to the hours logged here, I can do that. I can tap on one of the work items and I'll be shown the timesheet for that work item, and I can go ahead and make changes and save them. So in this manner, I can continue to log time across various work items for that given week and also know how much hours I have logged so far for each day of the week. And once I'm done updating my time logs across all these work items, I also have the option to route the timesheet from right here. So the moment I tap on route, it will also route the timesheet to the next workflow stage. So that's how the timesheet module will work. Of course, if you want to switch between some work items or some projects and log time for a specific week, you could still do that. You just have to tap on the filter icon on the top right, and you can select a specific week for which you would like to log time. Select the type of work item status as well. So in case you're wanting to include a new work item on which you haven't started logging time, you can select the pending option so that those items also show up, and also select from all the work projects to which you have been assigned. So in this case, I can select multiple projects as well in case I know I am been working on work items belonging to multiple projects. So depending upon those filter selections, I'll be seeing all the work items listed below, and I can log time for it from right here. So I simply have to tap on the number, and the keypad will open up and I can enter the time and save it right away. Another update which we have done apart from the timesheet module is that of the theme. So you can now update the theme right here from the mobile app. So if you are wanting to change your application theme, you could do that by selecting the required theme, and the same theme would also get applied on your web application account. So that's those were the two important updates that we had for the mobile app. So let me switch back to the presentation. So we looked at how the timesheet module works on the mobile app, and you can go across weeks or projects to log time on your work items, and also update the theme via the mobile app itself. So apart from all these enhancements in these areas of the application, what we have also done is made smaller but other important enhancements in the area of eForm and ECR. So in this case, what we have done is, if you have been configuring ECR tables to have different reports being shown, the field slots that have been referred for these table columns, now they will be always preserved when you are moving the configuration from one environment to another. So you no longer have to worry if the field slots are going to change every time you move configuration from one environment to another. So that's one thing which we have taken care of, and the configurator wouldn't have to look into it specifically. And apart from that, we have relaxed the file name check used to export and import items. So every time you export eForm listing, it would come out with the name within eForm. And you can now rename that file to whatever you would like as per your need, and still use the same file name to check in all your work items on that eForm. And we have also introduced a new master list so that if you want certain master lists or drop downs to show the team member names along with the login ID, you could use this new master list for that purpose. And apart from that, a couple of enhancements that we have done on the usability front are the ones which we looked at, the maximize mode, so that you're able to easily navigate across tabs as well as not lose the full screen view when a pop-up comes up, and also introduce remembering the searches on your account. So every time you make a search and you are looking for a work item, if you are entering that ID, the last 10 searches will be looked across and you will still be presented with the one which you had recently searched. So your last 10 searches will be remembered, and based on that you will be prompted for a keyword accordingly. And finally, we have now started supporting SVN version 3.8. So those were the enhancements that we have done as part of the 4.2 release. If you have any questions, we are open for questions right now. So I see a question being asked regarding the mobile app. What is the app name latest version? So if you go to the Play Store, it's there with the name of SwiftEnterprise. So you will be able to search for it on the app stores, be it iOS or Android. You can search for the name SwiftEnterprise, one word, and you will be shown the SwiftEnterprise app. So I see one question regarding the approval view for in the mobile. So approval view remains the same, just like we saw in one of our previous versions, wherein he's presented with the summary and he can still decide to look across the details of the work items on which he has logged time. So that remains pretty much the same. And in this release, what we have done is we have given the ability to the timesheet user to log time across weeks, across projects and work items, all in the same view, without having to navigate to the time entry option of each of those work items. So earlier, the time entry option was only available from the home page, inline actions for that work item. Now you can no longer have to rely just on that. You could just log time depending upon your usage, either on a daily basis on that work item through the inline actions, or at the end of the week when you are done with all the work that you plan to do, and you can still use the timesheet module to update time logs across the week. So I see a question regarding can we map the traceability for any task, or probably a user story from done perspective. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but if the reference is with respect to the execution board, so you can configure the execution board to have all your respective columns, and you can designate, you can design which columns should have should be denoted as done. Okay, I think that's all we had on the Q&A. So if you still in case have questions, you can back. Also contact any of your support SPs to get more details. So thank you all for joining the session. Have a nice day.